welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. Real treat for you today. It's a series I've been blowing up. I've been talking about for a while. The 4th issue comes out this week. It's Standstill from writer and colorist Lee Loughridge and artist Andrew Robinson, and they're both joining me to talk all about it today. Gentlemen, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, congratulations for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you're really lucky.
Yeah, dude, I am. So, interest of full disclosure, everybody, I ran into Lee at New York Comic Con. He was wearing a Standstill hat. I recognized him. I was like, dude, your Standstill series is so amazing. We've got to have you on to talk about it. So let's start there, Lee. Why don't we give everybody the elevator pitch? How do you describe Standstill?
I would say it's a story about a sociopath who has stolen a device that gives him the ability to stop time. And he goes on somewhat of a redemption tour with it. And simultaneously, the scientist that created the device is trying to track him down.
One of the things we get in the very first issue, almost like this motto of this guy, if you will, if you could stop time, what wouldn't you do? And that's how far this series goes. It's absolutely amazing. So I'll throw it over to you, Andrew. How did you get involved with the project? Was this something that you had talked about with Lee? Was it something he brought to you? Give us a little bit of the background of your involvement.
As I recall, I mean, I've known Lee since college, and I think I wrapped up the Fifth Beatle book that I'd worked on, and we were talking, I believe, down in San Diego, right, Lee?
Yeah. Yes.
And yeah, he gave me the pitch, and I was kind of hooked after reading the bar scene at the biker bar.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty cool. I just read it blind, and that was a really cool experience, not knowing what was going to happen, and this sort of like, I don't know, Hunter S. Thompson-esque guy walks into a biker bar, and then shit happens, you know?
Yeah, Ryker, very interesting character. What we see, everybody in this 4th issue that comes out this week, starts to make him a little more relatable, maybe you can have a little more empathy about why he's doing what he's doing. But the other thing that's really fantastic about this book is almost this widescreen feel that it has, right? Very cinematic. Those words get thrown around a lot and what have you, but if you're checking us out on YouTube, you can see one of Andrew's covers here that, it's kind of like a wraparound. That's the other unique thing about this book is it's all kind of double-page spread. So I'm sure it's kind of a different way for both of you to work. Lee, you've been doing colors for a long time, and Andrew, obviously, on the line work side. But talk a little bit about that decision, Lee. Was that something to do it with the double-page spreads throughout, something you had early on? Did it come later? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was from the onset. Because I remember, Andrew will probably remember this. I remember we had a class, and it was like a children's book class, and I did some really fucking weird layouts for this book. And I remember, Andrew, you bringing that up years later. You were like, I love how you laid that out. So I knew going into this, I definitely didn't want to do it upright. I think traditional comics suck. I think that's a terrible way to read. We don't watch TV that way.
Right.
I wish it could be modified. It's just tough. I get it with the retailers. We more than understand that. So when that was it from the onset. I don't know how much. I mean, that was my thought, and I think Andrew, you were on board from the start. I just knew I had that in my head, and I don't recall us really talking about it. I think it was like a no-brainer. Like, yeah, landscape, done. So the whole reason this book was supposed to come out landscape, and then other books had come out in that format, and they didn't do great. The retailers don't really like, they're tough to shelve. We thought we'd put, thicker stock on the cover so it could work. If you wanted to stand it upright. But Eric Stevenson sort of pulled the plug. Or even sort of, he said, you're not doing it that way. And then I went to Andrew, and I'm like, what do we do? And,
right.
It was, go ahead, Andrew.
I was going to add that also factored into the design of the logo.
Yeah.
So we thought if we're going to have this horizontal book, whether the comic shop owner puts it horizontally or vertically, one either stand or still would be not sideways, obviously.
Yeah, I think
so that was the reason that we have stand and then still is up vertically.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely works.
Yeah.
I think Echolands was one of those that did it sideways at J.H. Williams' book, which is gorgeous, and I loved it. But yeah, I heard some people weren't happy with it or what have you. I don't know why, because I agree with you, Lee. Like the landscape feel, that more cinematic feel, and you being a color artist and visual artist yourself, but specifically for you, Andrew. Do you find when you do your layouts that it gives you more space? Does it feel less cramped? Like, let's talk a little bit, like, technically why it's so much better.
I mean, if you're into that, into the cinema and getting that widescreen feel to your work, it's obviously an advantage. But then obviously there were pages too where I cut it up across the horizontal page into strips of vertical panels, so you can still work either way. It's not necessarily forcing you into doing everything vertical, or horizontal, but when you want to go horizontal, you can really explore the space and go horizontal.
Now let's talk a little bit about characters specifically, Lee. So for those that aren't aware, like I said, Lee's been doing color work and comics for decades and super talented, but he's also written some other things as well, not just Standstill, but Mid-State, Comixology Original, really interesting story, recommend that to everybody as well. But the main protagonist there, Paul Rinaldi, he's quirky, he's out there. There are some kind of similarities between him and not just Ryker in this, but also Colin, the scientist that invented the technology that allows people to manipulate time. And having these characters that they're not complete loners, Lee, but they have their own point of view, if you will, and they're out there to get a job done. Like, what is it about those type of characters? Because we've seen them throughout cinema, a lot of times in action films, that guy that's just out there to get the job done. What is it about those type of characters that attracts you to create stories with them? And how much of yourself is in those type of characters?
Well, I mean, Ryker, a lot of myself is in that character. It's my fucking soapbox. A lot of that stuff. I think, you first should have an interesting hook, right? Then you should have a really good framing story, and then it's all characters. So if you don't love the character in Ryker, I want you to love Ryker, but then as we go through, you realize how damaged he is. And he does things that you go, oh, fuck. Like, I guess there's no spoilers now, like the killing of the dog. Andrew did not want to draw that. And that moment was really important for me because that's going to turn a lot of people off. And even Andrew not wanting to draw it, I'm like, dude, you just filleted 15 bikers. 2 issues ago, but you won't kill a dog. And but that's like a multi-leveled kind of thing. Like, one, he's a bad man. He kills this dog, but he also spared the woman. He wanted to hurt her in the worst way possible, so he killed her beloved dog after he dressed her up in or she dressed him up in a tuxedo. Like, there's just a lot of, I think, elements where I want you to root for him, and then I also want him to do something where you're like, oh, that seemed really misogynistic, or, that's kind of fucked up. Like, I want him to dip his toe across the line and then kind of redeem himself. So he's flawed, but he's also doing a lot of shit we would like to do. He's like Larry David in that kind of scenario. Larry David kicked the shit and killed people.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. In that third issue, where he's taking this reality star or whatever to task, and he's saying the quiet part out loud. Wish we could all say, like, well, you think you're important because you inherited all this money? Like, you already started with the silver spoon up your ass, and we're supposed to, like, bow down or whatever. Like, yeah, who wouldn't want to do that? But at the same time, he's killing a dog. So yeah, it's this, you root for him. I'll put it this way: you agree with him and you understand why he does the things he does,
right?
But you don't always condone his actions, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, then when he walks out that door and he says, I forget the lines, like, you sealed his fate the second you put him in human clothes. That's where you go, oh, you're a motherfucker. Like, that sucks. Like, and then he goes out and he tries to be, he gives all the jewels and the money away. He's like Robin Hooding it, but then that goes wrong. Then the gangbangers show up and they start killing the homeless people. So it's like, I don't know. I guess it's kind of a play on society as a whole.
Yeah, when you get to draw that really kind of over the top, killing the dog notwithstanding, Andrew, but when you get to draw these kind of over the top scenes, I mean, we've had him, going balls to the wall, driving a convertible. We've seen him, shooting people on a motorcycle. Obviously, seen in the biker bar where he kills all these bikers. I mean, really over the top, like action-y stuff. How much fun is that to just be able to cut loose as an artist?
He's probably not having fun with it.
No, that part is cool. I mean, especially with the car chase scene in Karachi was really cool. Just thinking about classic movies like Bullet, I don't know, Smoking the Bandit, that kind of stuff, and having fun with sound effects and using sound effects to kind of show like the speed and angle and the direction that the car's moving, kind of add to the animated feel of it.
Yeah, we're real particular about what cars to put in. That's a very, very thought out process.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the other part of this with Andrew's art, and it just evokes a certain style. It just got, it just feels so cool. And yeah, it does feel like things like Bullet or those, awesome 70s movies with the muscle cars and what have you. And Ryker's like cut from that mold, right? Even though it's 2024, he's one of those old, like, what's his name? Charles Bronson in Death Wish. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to put up with anything, and you never know what he'll do next.
Yeah, and really, even the locations, we really thought about those. Everything's important. Colin's house was very important. We definitely wanted a craftsman home. Like, when you watch a film, there's a lot of things you don't think about, but the best movies are the ones where, like, you want to live in that film for 2 hours. So for this, the locations were really important, the characters, the vehicles, everything. And then obviously the dialogue, the smart assness.
Yeah, again, he's saying the thing, like the scene on the plane, how many of us wouldn't want to put some piece of shit in their place like that?
That guy sucks.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, issue 4 out this Wednesday, everybody. Like I said, that'll be halfway. It's an 8-issue series. And I've been digging it. We've been covering it on the podcast, obviously, and the YouTube channel. But I wonder how much feedback you two have gotten about the series. Does it seem like people are connecting with it, talking about it? Are you hearing from people, Lee?
Yeah, I think we've gotten nothing but great reviews. I haven't read a bad one. Sometimes people will think, I've heard a few where they're like, it kind of takes it to the edge. Some people get a little offended, but fuck them. Read something else. Yeah. I want you to be offended. Like, it's okay to be offended. You have a couple pages to make you hate someone or root for someone. And I don't think anything's that crazy, but, I'm Gen X.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other part of this. You're saying that it's your chance to kind of be on your soapbox, and some of these things need to be said, and yeah, sometimes people are a little too scared to say the thing that needs to be said, but that's probably how we ended up in this mess, because too many people are worried about saying the wrong thing. At least say something. You know what I mean?
Right.
What about?
And we're not trying to. There's nothing overt. I don't like any overt. I don't like anything dealing with sex. I don't want to play up on that, or It's just cheap, I think. So just keep it.
Well, plus, I mean, you're asking the viewer and the reader to think for themselves. We're not telling you like, hey, this person is a good person. You have to think they're a good person, or this person's bad and you got to think they're bad. Like, I don't know, you read it, use your own mind, you figure it out for yourself. We're all adults here, I think.
Yeah, we had a different ending for the last 4 issues initially, and then I rewrote it, and it definitely made the first ending. We went a lot into Colin and just how flawed he was, but we spun it around a bit. We cleaned it up. But it really more focuses on Ryker in the last arc.
Yeah, was that more just because as the story went along, as it was developing, this kind of made more sense to kind of focus on more on Ryker?
Yeah, well, we got with we're tight with Rick Remender, and he gave notes, and I don't even know that he read the last 4. We just sat one day, the 3 of us, and he noted like the first 4 issues, and then it became a logical kind of landing for the last 4. You know, like I remember at one moment Rick goes, "Okay, now what?" He goes, "It should be obvious," and then I just spit it out. He goes, "Yes," like, you know, everything just sort of felt a little more natural. Although I still do like twists. I don't want you to think you've got it figured out, and this certainly you don't, you won't.
Well, that's the other thing that's interesting about this, because this is the first thing that I read that you wrote. I didn't know about Midstate until I had already read the first couple issues of this. Obviously, I'd known your work as a color artist for a really long time. And that's, you know, telling a story in a completely different way, you know, when you're focused on the visual. So is writing, telling your own story, something you've aspired to do for a while?
Yeah, for sure. I just was never interested in superheroes. So, you know, for years, creator-owned, you know, slice-of-life kind of things didn't really sell. You couldn't really have a career.
Right.
So, but I mean, Andrew and I got on this several years back, so that was always the plan. So I've been writing. I mean, I have 1 million stories in the can already. So
right, but that was the challenge, I would say, where Colin is very, I don't know, pedestrian, whereas we did at least make Ryker was a little more flamboyant. So he kind of has like a costume in a way. You know, like like wearing the boa in issue 3, and
we like dressing him up. And Colin is pretty straight-laced, but you know he's also wildly intelligent, and but he's a sweet boy, and but you know he's also a guy that will get shit done. You know he doesn't lay down.
Yeah,
well, that's the other aspect of this. You know, you mentioned it earlier, Lee. Like, you can dress it up however you want, and yeah, it's fantastic art, and cool cars, and tons of action or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's character, right? Like, we have to care about the characters, and that's what drives the story. And there is there is a kind of a mystery of you know, at first Colin's trying to figure out, you know, who's behind it, and then how's he doing it, and then how are we going to stop him? So that's kind of where we are in the story right now. But it definitely has a little bit of a mystery feel. Was that something that you were conscious of, Lee? Like, you wanted to like, you know, we don't. It's not always the best idea to spoon feed a reader, but you leave enough questions and where we're coming back for more, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew and I talked about this ad nauseum for years. You know where it was going to go. You do find out the relationship at the end of issue 4.
Yep.
You know, we know who Ryker is. So you read issue 4?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that feel to you?
Well, like I said right at the top, that like when you hear what Colin has to say about you know, who he is, he says, oh, you know, it's this guy Ryker, and then he gives context about how he knows Ryker and why he thinks Ryker's doing this. For me, it put Ryker in a different context. Like, now I have a little bit better understanding, you know, that he's not just doing this for kicks, you know. There's a reason behind it, and so I'm sort of prepared to be a little more understanding, to be a little more empathetic, instead of just like, oh, this guy's kind of a badass, but maybe he's stepping over the line. It sounds like there's some trauma there, so you can, you know, I'm very intrigued to find out, you know, more about why exactly he's doing this, and maybe I'm gonna, you know, I'm on the fence. Like, there's part of me that thinks, okay, maybe I'm gonna agree with him more, or maybe I'm gonna say, yeah, dude, I get that you went through that, but you really have taken it too far. So we're in a really interesting place halfway through, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I don't know. I don't want to spoil it. I'm glad you see it that way, because I wasn't sure how the reaction would be, how their relationship plays out. And yeah, right, that happens in 4. Well, we know. Yeah, well, and then 5 we have 5 a lot,
Yeah, we've seen the
Well,
cover. Yeah, we've seen the cover for 5, so it seems like Colin and Ryker get a chance to be face to face. So yeah, I'm curious to see how.
yeah, so you finally have that moment, and the wonder is, is he there to kill him?
Yeah,
And Colin certainly believes so. So, and then that sort of tracks, where we're going to head. Actually, at the end of issue 5, you're kind of like, what the fuck is going to happen now? And then that really ramps up. Yeah, issue 6 is hectic as hell, and then we start landing the plane.
yeah, that's fantastic. I love stories where I'm not sure what's gonna happen next because I've read so many. You know how it is, guys. You can sort of start predicting.
Well, that's the thing too. We wanted to make it a quick read. Like I'll write stuff. I'll write my dialogue, and then I'll write like a pass for lettering, and then after I see it in lettering, I'll strip it down. I just keep taking stuff away because I hate reading comics that are too fucking. I feel like it's an egomaniac that writes a wordy comic.
Yeah.
And I feel like I love books that you can get through really quickly where you're like, fuck, at the end you want more. And I feel like the pacing on this has been done well. And it's been, we work hard at that.
Yeah, no, it shows. And the other thing is you don't want to put a bunch of word balloons on the page and cover up the gorgeous, visuals that Andrew's doing and you're doing on colors.
Right.
But having known Lee for such a long time, Andrew, but also you yourself having done so much work and worked with different writers, the fact that Lee thinks visually in terms of colors and kind of visual pacing as well, does that help? You think his writing and help you guys kind of develop the story and make sure to nail the pacing? The fact that he does have that visual background.
Yeah, of course, and it just makes it easier to speak our language of color theory and, what's working, what doesn't work. Also discussing to visually illustrate the time stoppage, we have it more like if things slow down, we figure it gets colder, it gets cooler, so it's cooler colors. But the person who actually gets to navigate through time stoppage, they're actually warmer, because they're actually moving and causing friction and energy and all that stuff. So, yeah, we're certainly on the same page as far as color as an aspect of storytelling.
Yeah, and as far as the art, everything I write, I'll write full panel descriptions, and to Andrew, that's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
It's more like, hey man, these 3-4 beats need to happen. Here's the script. Andrew likes to have full dialogue because he wants to get the mouths right. And then whatever comes out of that comes out of that. I think even in issue 1, Andrew, was it the airplane scene? I think I just hit I feel like on that I just wrote 8 things, 8 bullet points. And I go, this needs to happen across 5 pages. Go. And then I dialogued. I think or did I send you the dialogue, Andrew? I sent you the dialogue. Yeah. I think I just sent him the dialogue, and I went, they're on a plane. This needs to happen at the end. Something like this. I think I did totally go, think of something fucked up. Like he needs to do something fucked up to this guy. We had a bunch of ideas, and then Andrew, I think you came up with that. But yeah, I think I just had dialogue and said, we got 5 pages. We got to end it like that. Go. So that's a great way to work too. So, he gets it through. And I think it worked out perfect. Yeah, I don't know. We work fine together.
Yeah, that's a great scene. And yeah, I'm sure it keeps it fun for you, right, Andrew, that you have so much freedom to kind of, get your creative juices flowing. How am I going to pick this? What camera angle, that sort of thing?
Right. Well, I mean, that should be the artist's job, is to go in there and play, director, cameraman, also a lot of acting, because obviously to draw these characters and whatever they're doing, you're kind of acting it out before you draw it to figure out how their movements go. Even with something subtle, just sitting at a table and, how are your posture at a table, and are you leaning on the table, how you hold the cup, all these things. It's a lot of acting goes into the beginning stage of the drawing process.
Yeah, that really helps set the tone as well because, yeah, we're talking about all these fantastic scenes and fantastic moments and what have you, but, yeah, that character acting is so important because it really informs the tone of the book. And there's a page in 4 that it really hit home for me. I was like, oh, man, this book is just so goddamn good. And it's we get sort of a cross-section of Colin's house, and he's in the bathroom, and his, his partner or whatever you want to call her.
Kate.
Kate, she's leaning against the wall, legs crossed, just this casual sort of pose. And I was just like, man, Andrew's so damn good at character acting because it's little moments like that, right? Like the way she's standing tells me what she's feeling.
I actually, that's a shot where it's very difficult. And I had a girlfriend of mine at the time pose for that shot just to get what the hips and the legs and the shoes and everything. So yeah, sometimes it helps to take a nice reference shot and bring more, life to it and believability.
Yeah.
I think it's a funny little moment. So a little bit of humor mixed in with the science, the crazy science of it all.
And that was another one of those pages, Andrew, where I wrote like 5, 6, 7 things. Like he's trying to test this device, trying to get it to work. Maybe he's jumping off a rock. Maybe he's under power wires. Maybe he's meditating. Whatever the fuck, and Andrew just went off. But like the other thing is, I'm not going to tell Andrew what to draw.
Yeah.
His storytelling is a fucking masterclass. So who the hell am I? So it's him coming up with him on the toilet was a riot. Like I'm down for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I give you credit, Lee. You know when to get out of the way and let Andrew do his thing. And yeah,
you have to. I think a lot of writers are egotists, and they want to control it and they want to take credit for all of it. And it's been interesting this journey, seeing it from the other side. Writers get so much fucking credit, and they do nothing for the art. Like Andrew and I, with that one cover, Andrew, we were in real time on the phone, like editing a cover because I can do that. You know what I mean? So I love having hands on it at the end. I love being a part of that process. And I think for writers that aren't a part of that process, they need to settle the fuck down and let their artists, do their thing.
Yeah, well, that's how you're going to get the best work, right?
I think so. That's a true collaborative. You know what I mean? You just trust the people you're working with. The one last thing is this book, the hardcover will be landscape.
Oh, awesome.
So that is the good thing. Good for the reader, bad for, me, because like every page is drawn for that landscape hardcover. Mm-hmm. And then I'm reformatting every page for the floppies.
For the flop, yeah.
So we're going to have 2 complete versions of this book, complete letter versions, art versions. But it'll be great to see it in its true form because in issue 1 and 2, we've got double page spreads that'll be 22 inches wide.
Yeah.
So if you have 2 issues of issue 1, a couple people have figured it out. They're like, oh shit, they can lay them out. You've got this crazy spread. So I feel like we were able to work. I think it works fine in the floppies, but there's a lot more art on a lot of those pages that'll be on that hardcover. So when you get the hardcover, it is it's not like when you buy a trade, it's the same shit.
Yeah.
The hardcover is definitely, has more art, and it's definitely a different look. So it'll be cool.
Yeah, a different experience. So yeah, I look forward
for
to
sure.
It. So.
And there'll be tons of layouts and character designs and designs for the arm gauntlets and everything, and yeah, it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, I think we have like 20 or so pages available to just put tons and tons of back matter.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, if you've read Standstill, if you've been reading Standstill, I'm sure you're looking forward to that hardcover as well, because this is just a world I want to live in. I want to be a little more immersed in, because it's such a fantastic story with great characters and gorgeous art. So, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining me. Remember, everybody, this Wednesday, issue 4 is out. You can go back and get the previous issues. There is a second printing of issue 1 because it did sell out. But they should be available at your comic shop. And the other part that I want to remind everybody is don't just pick up issue 4 this week. Tell your retailer, tell your comic shop, hey, pre-order me the rest of these. I want them. Put it on your pull list, whatever. Because we know the shelves are crowded. You want to guarantee that you're going to get the rest of the story. Once you read issue 4, you're going to want the rest of the story, I promise you. So, yeah, help your comic shop out. Help out Lee, help out Andrew, and pre-order the rest of the series. So, as we're winding down here, I'll throw it over to you, Lee, first. Any last thoughts for our audience?
No, just go buy the book.
What about you, Andrew? Anything else to
add? Ditto.
Yeah, support creator-owned comics. Yeah,
it's a fantastic story, everybody. I really, really recommend it. So if anybody wants to follow along with your work, Lee, are you active on social media at all? Is there a place people can follow you?
Yeah, I'm only on Instagram. It's just at Lee Loughridge.
Okay. And what about you, Andrew?
I'm on Instagram as well, at Space Junkies, with an EES at the end.
Great. And if you're having trouble finding Lee or Andrew, I'll put links in the show notes, everybody, to their Instagram, so you can just go and there. So thanks again for taking the time, gentlemen. Love the book. Can't wait to read more.
Yeah, thanks. Glad you like it.
Hey, thanks, sir. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And on behalf of Andrew and Lee and myself, we want to thank everybody for joining us. As always, whether you're checking us out on YouTube or the audio-only feed, we really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you next time.